This episode is brought to you by our friend Gavin Baines and his legendary quote, "You can't fix yourself, you gotta override the bullshit."
Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast, my people.
Hello my people, ¿cómo están, damas y caballeros? Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast, where we welcome people with remarkable stories for amazingly vulnerable conversations. Today, I have a dear friend, the unbreakable, the unmistakable, the highly capable, the invincible, the CEO, Enrique Flores. Enrique Flores is the CEO and digital experience consultant at Paula, a digital solutions company. He's also my ex-roommate and one of my best friends. He's also the former Chief Marketing and Technology Officer at Rosenberg Research Associates and the former Director of Brand and Communications at Gluskin Sheff, also one of the biggest wealth firms in Canada. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Vamos a filosofar. We're going to talk about ways of being. We're going to talk about why Canada. We're going to talk about where this new company that he created came from. We're going to talk about trips, friendships. We don't even know where this is going, but I'm very excited. If you love this episode, follow us on social media. Share this episode on social media. Follow the podcast. And obviously, now this is the best part. We welcome the guest. Enrique, how are you feeling, buddy?
It was about damn time, bro.
It's about damn time.
I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
We don't even know what's gonna happen today. So
yeah, I really have no idea why I'm here, but I guess we'll find out.
Episode almost 80 now, and
it took 80 episodes.
80 episodes. You know those friends where you know they do something important and good, but you don't have any idea what they do. That was Enrique. So we at Malpensando, we knew Enrique, like he was just like a technology and marketing guy or whatever, and then he created this firm, Paula, where we started working with him like 2 months ago, and now we've like significantly streamlined a lot of things. So I wouldn't say it was just two friends doing our best, Juan and me, but we have the comedy school, we have our comedy careers, so the comedy shows, and then we have the corporate side of the business, and we had a bunch of databases that never really connected. We didn't even touch them. We were selling on WhatsApp, out of Google Sheets, out of email, and then it was just a nightmare. Nothing was connected. And then Obama told us over lunch that this is exactly what he did for all these wealth firms that he used to work at before, where he streamlined everything and allowed you to scale email marketing, and basically all the databases talk to each other. So you do sales and marketing and a million other things smoothly. It's not easy. We've been working 2 months super hard at this, but finally, we've also implemented HubSpot, which Enrique is a pro at. Well, we're not even going to talk about this. I'm more interested in how Paula came about. So you were very successful at what you did, obviously. You were a Chief Marketing and Technology Officer, and then Director of Brand, and before Director of Brand and Communications. Why did you quit? I'm so happy you quit, man, because we were roommates since like 2013-14, and even then Enrique was talking about quitting. He was talking for like
I was
8 years. I'm gonna quit my job, blah blah blah, and then you did. What led you to quitting? And what did you learn in those 6 months that you were traveling?
What led me to quitting is that before I took my last job, which was 3 years ago, I kind of wanted to quit already. I kind of wanted to start my own thing. I knew that I had a passion and a talent for like online marketing, digital marketing, creating online experiences and digital experiences, and then just helping people connect the dots so that they can sell more efficiently
and scale.
scale, create great client digital experiences for people. And I also know that if you don't have a powerful digital strategy, you're gonna fall behind eventually.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to do that full time. And I actually quit my job at Gluskin Sheff, and I had a good relationship with the senior leadership there. And I remember walking in for like the 4th time, because I did try to quit 5 times.
Every time it's like, I'm quitting tomorrow, and then the next day it'd be like, but they offered me more money, so I'm like, this guy got like 50 raises in like 50 months.
Yeah, so that kept happening. I quit a few times. Every time I tried to quit, they'd offer me a lot more money, and I would just stay. I keep selling my soul. And then the last time I finished a big project at Gluskin Sheff, we did a massive rebranding. It was a 2-year project. Rebranded everything from like the signs at the door to the client portal and the website. Everything was brand new. I was in charge of that.
Logo or not? No logo.
Everything.
Wow.
Colors, logo, statements, client portal, website. The sign that you see at the Beata Center downstairs where you choose.
Wow.
Like everything.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a very expensive project. And I ran that project and it went very well. And I knew that was like my last project before I walked away. And so I did.
The last dance.
My last dance.
Of Michael Jordan Flores.
Yeah. And I remember doing that, and it went well. They even did like a little party for the project just to celebrate the change. And then I remember walking into the CEO's office, who was amazing to me. And I remember just, it's like, okay, this time is for real. I quit. And I think he saw something in me that he's like, okay, I got it.
I can't throw more money.
Yeah, this time this is not gonna work. I remember he called over the second most senior person at the firm, and we had a conversation and we started planning what we were gonna do, how we were gonna do it. He's like, at least I need 3 months, because there was a few things that he wanted to get done with me, and also at the time he was offering me, he was already working with me to get me a better position at the firm. And so he was kind of like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, I'm sure. So they were so good that they actually decided to continue to pay me. And they're like, build your business from here. You can stay here. You can use all our resources. Work 50% of your time for your company and 50% of the time for Gluskin Sheff. If you leave, it takes a minute. We're going to be your first client. It was like the dream. And I decided to do that. I knew it was, 50% was not going to be 50%. It was going to be like 70-30. But honestly, like,
yeah, that's
I had a
amazing.
good salary, whatever, to just... It was an amazing proposition. And the idea that they were going to be my first client, one of the biggest boutique wealth management firms in Canada. So I was like, okay, this is perfect. Let's do it.
I think to your conversation the other day with Juan, where we were selling on napkins for like 7 years. Well, yeah, 6 years, I guess, since we quit our jobs in 2017. Where like I would meet you, we were literally selling on WhatsApp, running a business like Latinos on WhatsApp. Then we had a Google spreadsheet. Then we have another like on Monday.com, and then we had emails, and it was just a mess. And like Enrique said the other day, like, I'm not here to make your life easier. If you want to scale, it'll be hard at the beginning, but you'll be able to scale. And now you're gonna have like, you're not gonna be working in your business, you're gonna be working on your business finally. So that is that out. I wanna explore something really, really interesting that I feel in the context of Latinos coming to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I find that you're a very special breed when it comes to, there's a lot of people who are subject matter experts like you in email marketing or in digital solutions, etc., or in banking or in wealth or whatever. But I think that you have had success professionally, not just because of your talent and skills, because a lot of people have that. But I think there's a certain like, I don't give a fuckness about you. I don't give a fuck about anything in your demeanor, like in your bravado, in your body language, that I think helps you be successful in those like alpha environments, like white Jewish wealth management, where I don't think you see a lot of diversity unless you're like a brown or Asian or Latino, like valedictorian from Harvard, which all these investment advisors were at Gluskin Sheff or other places.
And I wasn't.
and you're not, clearly, and we're not, let's just say that. So I do feel that in your, what is it that, I'm trying to dissect it because I'm so passionate about, like, not working to networking.
How did I get there?
Yeah, how the fuck? Because I know a lot of people, and not working to networking, the networking meetups that we host, where these people did great things in Venezuela, in Colombia, in Costa Rica, and Mexico, but I think their demeanor is apologetic, like, oh, please give me an opportunity, and then as soon as you get like, they were maybe directors or VPs back home, and then they get an analyst here, and they're like, thank you, master, for this $30,000 a year, which for context, it may sound like a lot in Latin America, but in Toronto, it's so expensive that $30,000 is nothing for a year. So, what was, if there's any way to ask this, what was your approach in this? Because I feel like you would quit and not be fearful of what happened, and as a result, like in negotiation, where the people who cares the least is often the one who wins. What was your approach in these tough conversations where you're like, listen, if I don't get this promotion that I deserve, I'm out? Like, what was your approach? Was it I don't care?
Yeah.
Was it I know I deserve this? Was it like I got nothing to lose in this like white environment? Or what was your approach?
When I think back, I don't think of how good I was at navigating the corporate environment in Canada. I actually think of what I didn't do so well and the fact that I could have gotten further if it wasn't for some things that I've identified with time that I haven't done right. And it was actually, I don't know if you noticed, but I never really talked about my job before. Like, it wasn't,
yeah, I still don't know what you do.
Yeah, and a lot of people had no idea. You knew that I was doing well, but or relatively well, but you didn't know why. And that's because I think for the most part, I wasn't particularly proud of my job. Or I didn't like my identity wasn't connected to my work.
But you were aware that you had escalated to points where not a lot of people do.
I think near the end I realized it, and it was because of the interest that I saw, particularly in the Latino community, when I talked about what I did and the level I was at, and even just coming to your events, that I was like, these people think that I'm at like the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
So it just didn't hit me until those things happened. But I think it wasn't. I mean, I've always had a like little regard for politics, right? In terms of my politics, I mean a lot of regard for politics. I love politics, but little regard for social politics,
company politics, and internal drama.
Yeah, and that has been a double-edged sword for me. Like, it hasn't always helped me, right? There is a self-righteousness that I carry with me that has pissed people off, and because of that, especially when they're very powerful people, at times they've kept me in places that maybe I would have done better if I'd been a little bit more understanding and less judgmental and less self-righteous. Because and this is not the question you asked. This is going to happen a lot. You're going to ask something.
No, but it is.
But
I think your demeanor may come off as arrogant or like, yeah, I don't give a fuck what you think. And it's not that. It's just that, and your communication style is often direct, which sometimes in Canada may be too direct, given the context.
Yeah, I was told once, Enrique, you can't just say what's in your mind. Literally by a very senior person. And my response, for the first time I kept my mouth shut after that, but in my mind, my response is like, no, you guys should say what's in your mind a little bit more than you do now. Because we've been spinning our wheels for like the past 6 months just because no one's willing to speak up.
Yeah.
So honestly, like in my performance reviews, which the last few were like 2 minutes, it's like we have nothing to talk about. Like, it's so straight with each other. There's nothing left here to talk about. But a lot of the things was like, okay, you can improve this, you can improve that, but they were typically pretty good, and the response was typically, what we love about you is that you're the target, the goal, the project.
You get
work,
it done.
The work, and zero regard for politics. Where people are trying to be careful, not to do this. You're like, it's like a bull that's just.
What we like about you is zero regard for politics. What we don't like about you is zero regard for politics.
Yeah, but I think in that context, I think it was helpful because I think there's a lot of times where things don't get done in the corporate world, and it's not because of lack of skill. It's not because of lack of understanding of an issue. It's because all this, conversations that are not being had and things that are below the surface where, like, you don't want to go and bother somebody, or you don't know what this person's think, or you're people pleasing. And a lot of what doesn't get done is because of that, or because you're not willing to speak up in a meeting, and we keep going over the same things. So I think over time, especially because I spent a lot of time at the same place, people started to notice that I wasn't as susceptible to those things, and therefore I was able to get things done.
Yeah, I think there's a fine line between a disregard for office politics and being indifferent to the task at hand. I don't think you're indifferent at all, because I think, obviously we've been working for the past 2 months very closely in this project, and like you're getting the goal all the time. So there's some people that I worked with at Scotiabank or in other roles where they have zero regard for office politics, and because they're quiet and they just put their head down in the cubicle, you barely even notice they're on the team sometimes. This is not your case. I think that one of the things, if I had to dissect it, and things that I mentioned in Not Working to Networking, is that some people are very smart and they should get more credit on the team, but when it matters in meetings, they never speak up. So, and then somebody that maybe didn't do as much in this example, like me, but speaks in the meetings, the perception is that I care more about the project and that I'm more committed just because I speak up in these meetings. And I can imagine that if you were running a lot of these projects and they were telling you can't just say what you think, you were being very vocal and getting stuff done.
Yeah, I was never told you need to speak up. In all my years, that was never, ever, ever part of the feedback. But I'm gonna tell you something, and we're gonna get more like real in this conversation now, which is that one of the big insights that I had after quitting, after thinking about
your last role and in those
Yeah.
in that traveling.
Yeah, and it started to happen even as I was in my last few roles, was that personally what happens with me, and it's a bit of an issue, is that if I lose respect for you, you're gonna know. It's gonna be noticeable. And what it takes for me to lose respect for somebody, sometimes it just comes from a self-righteous place. Sometimes you walk around in life like you have the moral baton for righteousness and for what's right and what's wrong, and then if somebody doesn't fit that, then you judge them and then you lose respect for them. And humans are more complex than that. And so what happens is I have a situation where people who were more senior than me, sometimes very senior, would know that I didn't think the highest of them, or and those are the people that can keep you down there. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
they can keep you, and I wasn't, and you can claim, well, I'm who I am, and I just keep it real, I'm authentic, but that shit can be fucking useless sometimes. You know what I mean? First of all, for two reasons. The first one is, it is not conducive of what you want to get or what you want to get done.
Yeah.
And second, and more importantly, which is where you really have to look at the mirror, is we're all, complex beings, and that's a human being.
Multidimensional.
Yeah, and the reason I'm judging this person with all my self-righteousness, this millennial has all the answers, it might even include elements that I have myself. And if I was looking at the mirror, maybe at a different level, I will find, a little bit of me in that person.
Oh, yeah.
And so that idea of like putting yourself in other people's shoes, just having a little bit more compassion, is something that I think it took me a really long time to learn, and I'm still learning it. But I think it's one of the things that gets in the way if you're a little bit too direct, too self-righteous. That can take you really far. You know what I mean? Like, you see, the Donald Trumps of the world, they have no regard for things. But there is you can be, especially when you don't have a good moral compass, but even if you have it, it can be destructive. It can be destructive because nobody has all the answers, and sometimes you're judging and you shouldn't be. And also because the world is made up of people that are different, and if you're just pointing the finger and trying to just, demonize anyone who's not, then you're gonna find yourself in situations or create situations that are not ideal. So, but I do think that my persistence and this just drive to like what's the goal, I don't care about anything that's happening, what's the goal. There were many times where people were about to give up on projects, and I will walk into the CEO's or the COO's office and be like, why are we doing this, and spend 45 minutes there uninvited, and the next day there will be a decision that we're getting back on track because I pounded the table, and then they will come and be like, thank you for pounding the table. And that happened often.
I think it's all about context and skill set, because in those positions where you're running projects that involve tens of thousands of data points, or hundreds of thousands at times, you need a guy that gets the job done. Because if you have somebody like me, is like, well, maybe we'll see. I'm not even passionate about these things. I don't even care. And I admire the passion and the knowledge, but you couldn't pay me to go and see a tutorial or to take a Salesforce or a HubSpot course. I don't care about these things, but I want to have somebody who's very passionate on the team about this. And Max Rangel, the CEO of Spin Master, who was here, he said I think the question was like, how do you handle people who start bullying in negotiations or in the boardroom, or who start yelling? And he's like, you know what? I'm a big fan of passion, and if somebody's very passionate, I respect that. So I guess it's the shadow of the strength. That you can't do what Cristiano Ronaldo does and not rub people the wrong way. You can't be David Goggins and achieve that without rubbing people the wrong way. Could you still be kind at the same time? 100%. But it just takes a certain intensity, I believe, to run these fucking audit projects, huge data transformation projects or digital solution projects. So I think that while it's great that you have the self-awareness, you don't touch that part. In the World Cup, there's a documentary on Netflix of Kobe being on the Dream Team, because it was called the Redeem Team. Did you watch it?
Yeah.
And Coach K, the coach of Duke, he was the coach of the U.S. And in the first meetings where they had lost the Olympics and now they're trying to win the gold medal again, he's like, there's big dogs on the team, and he's like, how do you manage the egos? And he's like, I want you to have your ego, because that ego, you need it on the field, on the court. Now, on the other hand, can we work as a team so that it's not like everybody against everybody? So I believe that part, it's great that you have that self-awareness now that you're leading a bigger, not a bigger team, because it's not hundreds of people, but your team, you're the leader now. So in many ways, the vibe and the culture of the company is just a reflection of you, because everybody's just waiting. I see it even on Not Working to Networking, where we just started as a not-for-profit, and it's 10 of us in the WhatsApp group, or 9, and sometimes I'm like, fuck this shit. This is gonna be a dictatorship. this is what I say, and this is what gets done. But then I'm like, of course not, because like sometimes I want stuff to get done, but I realize
people want that sometimes.
Sometimes
I've noticed that
because you don't want like a debate all the time, but at the same time, people do want to feel seen and heard, and my team in many ways is just a reflection of me in this case. So I like that you have that self-awareness. What have you felt in now having a team? You have the developers, you have the social media, you have what's Hennessy's do?
Just like social media manager, digital marketing person, a little bit of everything.
You have the developers, you have you have like a lot of people. So you're certified in HubSpot. Why the name Paula, and what have you enjoyed the most in this first year of having a team?
Yeah, so I mean, before I had a team too when I was working, in the corporate world. And in some cases I like that better because I had a lot more money to pay these people and it was easier to get them to do things. It wasn't my money. So, but I think, when I think of this team, a lot of people think about these things in terms of like what's the right way to manage team and what are the issues that arise. I find that I'm so into the goal and so into what we're trying to accomplish that I spend very little time thinking about what it means to have a team and what's a better way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we have these individual relationships, and I think I trust myself enough to know how to deal with a person that I don't even spend a lot of time thinking about, which might be a bad thing. Maybe it's not going well, and they haven't told me. But I've always had really great feedback from the people that work for me in terms of like,
high performing teams.
Yeah, and also like I've been told a couple times the best part of my job was working for you. I've been told that before people left me. So it's something that I don't really. We're just grinding. My team is like only paid very little or not at all because we're starting to some extent. And what's amazing is that these guys are almost like there with me full time because they believe so much in what we're doing. And when I think of the team, that's one of the things that I think about the most. It's like, whoa, like we're really into the promise of this business because we're willing to do so much without really seeing the big bucks yet. And that has been validating, you know what I mean, in terms of like what we're trying to get to. It's been a while. It's been, since September we officially launched. So, but yeah, it's I don't know if I have a great answer in terms of like insights from the team, other than they're amazing and we get along really well and we just want to go and crush it.
One of the most fulfilling things about at least creating Not Working to Networking, which doesn't make money yet, just a little bit with donations on Eventbrite, but nobody really donates. But we're hoping to get donations now because we just started the not-for-profit officially. It's like that I've been able to handpick this team, like the curating of the team. Sometimes you have friends or of friends who have projects, and sometimes you're like, man, I would love to work with this person, but obviously you don't because they're engineers and you are like a comedian or in banking or whatever. But this has been really fulfilling, and be like handpicking them and then seeing them work together. And like, dude, or like sometimes it gets really heated about some decisions that involve no money. And one of my friends, Juan Camilo, who has a lot of experience with not-for-profits, he's like, you don't have the money because you don't have any grants or anything, but he's part of the group. He's like, these people are so passionate that I know a lot of not-for-profits that have money but zero passionate people. So I think you've won half the battle. Tell me about.
I never thought about it, but I definitely have that experience. We had a presentation that we were building, and we have a graphic designer, and we're trying to give the graphic designer instructions, and I did the main part of it, and now we're discussing it. you were 2.5 hours on the phone. To the point that it's like, okay, guys, I had to have a conversation. Guys, I love the passion, but this was not efficient and is not viable. We cannot do this again. I'm gonna either have the conversation just between me and the designer, or we're gonna figure something out, because this is not sustainable. But 2.5 hours, like a 14 slides presentation, that was already done.
Where did you go when you first quit? You went on a world tour. What I know, you saw Dani Gomez in Colombia. You also went to Barcelona. You saw Peludo. Where else did you go? And what was the coolest thing about this trip?
So I quit. I spent some time here, middle of the pandemic, and then I went to Chile because my family lives in Chile, as you know. I spent some time with my mom and my grandma and my sister and her family. They all live there, and I have a lot of extended family there too. And there I spent about a month and a bit, and we did some... Actually, we didn't really do much traveling in Chile. We just went out a couple times, but it was mostly just me spending, an extended period of time with my family, which I hadn't done in 17 years, because since I left Venezuela. So that was cool. And
how did that feel? Did you want to kill each other after a month?
No, not at all. I was very chill. I was just enjoying...
Chill in Chile, I love it.
Yeah. And honestly, bro, my grandma, so I'll just get into that. My grandma's name is Paula. That's where the name of the business comes from. She has dementia. She's 96. And she was very close to me growing up. She basically raised me. My mom was the closest person to her. It was a very tight family, but my mom was pretty close to my grandma. And so she lives with her. Just spending a month with my grandma and just helping my mom, because my mom has to take care of her, so just being there and being, looking out for her. That was a lot of what I did. And at that time I was looking for the name for my business, and I had all these stupid names.
Like what?
Software something, or descriptive names that I will just write down and I will hate. And my grandma and I really, at the beginning she didn't remember who I was, but she was pretending that she remembered who I was.
Oh, yeah.
Knew, and I just let it be. I just rolled with it. And I told you she will ask me about my my wife and my kids. And I'd be like, I don't have a wife, I don't have kids. And then, actually I wouldn't say that. I will be like, yeah, they're great. And over time, I think she started to remember who I was. And if she didn't start to remember who I was, she started to create a new relationship with me. And so we'll start talking about the past and about the rest of our family members. And it was, have you watched The Notebook?
Yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah.
I thought about that a lot recently.
It was that story. I will just go every night and I will sleep in the same bedroom as my grandma. And she will ask me the same questions. And I will go through the family tree every night, answering the same things, telling her that, yes, I'm not cold, grandma. I don't need to put, my blanket on. Because she would try to just always put my blanket on. And I did that for a lot of days. And we basically rekindled our relationship in a way, or we just became close again. And that was when I realized, that's the name of my company. It was literally in front of my computer, a blank page, because I will write a name, delete it, and then just not like it. And she was sitting there, and I was like, Paula. And that was it. And when I came up with that, I knew that was it. There was no going back. There was no questioning it. I actually did question it for 4 seconds. But then I was like, fucking choose whatever the name I want. I gave it the meaning. And that was it. The next day I registered the company, and the day after that I registered the domain, and now we're here.
I remember us, a bunch of us went to dinner or drinks before you left on that trip, and we were like, don't work, don't do anything in this trip, rediscover yourself. And the next day it's Paula Inc. was registered. What?
Dude, I came back with a massive business plan.
Yeah, it's good.
I told you guys, and I was like, fucking, why am I asking a bunch of fucking hippies? what I should be doing. It's like, what? That was a stupid group of people to ask.
The best part is that I feel very proud of this group because, first of all, I didn't realize this until the dominoes started to fall slowly, but there's this like theory called the 5 chimps theory, where it's basically what one chimp can do, the others do, and the theory basically connects with the fact that you are the average of your 5 closest friends in terms of income, in terms of relationships, in terms of values, in terms of everything. And in our group of friends, what I'm particularly proud is that a lot of us started in the corporate world, but we just started to quit. Everybody started to quit. Sounds like just a group of quitters, but what I mean by that is we started.
Now we're all broke.
And now we're all broke. Speak for yourself. But
we're not broke.
No. We are loaded with Oama's new, Enrique's new solutions here. So basically, I don't know if it was first Diego or Dani, but both engineers, one quit and then started traveling. Then the other quit, started doing parties. Then Juan and I quit to do Mal Pensando, to do comedy and our company. Now we have the Rethink on the corporate side. Then a couple of the people quit. I don't even remember who else quit. And then you finally quit. And now the cool thing is that first it was like only a couple of us who could go to lunch or breakfast whenever we wanted. And now it's like we really can't see each other after 5 because we have events or stuff to do, but during the day it's the best because now everybody has we manage our own time. That has its own trials and tribulations. But the other thing that you really influenced was when Enrique was my roommate. I started to realize a trend where every ex-girlfriend he would send to Landmark so they would become better human beings after.
Okay guys, this episode is never getting out.
So for those of you who don't know what Landmark is, it's like I don't even know how to explain it. It's basically like a personal growth, if you want to call it that. They don't call themselves that, but it changed my life in many ways, and in my way to see life, and not adding meaning to everything, and not being attached but being committed, and a million other things. But the first I heard of that program was through Enrique, who had done it. And then all of our friends did it as well. I did it with Juan, then my wife did it, and then I did other program, like it's just
courses.
Yeah, the forum is the first one, then the advanced course, then the SELP, self-expression and leadership, and then there's like communication courses. So I did like 5, I think, and Enrique did a bunch as well. And through that, not working to networking was born. Through that, a lot of other things in my life were born. And when did you take Landmark? And I don't mean to get into like the nitty gritty and the principles and the.
Let's get into it. Okay.
So what are things that you learned at Landmark that you still use, and when did you first take it?
I think I was like 22. So we're not gonna say how long ago that was, but it was a long time ago. And so maybe I don't know, 13 years ago, 14 years ago. And
it's like a 3-day. The first one is a 3 full day.
Yeah.
And then the Tuesday.
Yeah. The forum was the most impactful to me. The reason is that I was a complete idiot before.
You said that you were spoiled before.
It was. I mean, I was. I guess you could. I don't know if it's spoiled. I was self-righteous. I was close-minded. I was
fixed mindset, close-minded. Judgmental.
Yeah, I was likable because I've always had good relationship with people and a lot of friends, and there's always a couple people that just hate me, but for the most part I get along with people, and I feel loved by my social circles. But there was definitely some ideas that I had in my mind that I wasn't very flexible about, and maybe even took I thought it was wrong to be flexible about them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
in terms
yeah,
of like, I thought it was a weakness, or like you just, you know, even when you realize you're wrong, you just keep being stubborn about something because being wrong is bad, or being proven wrong is bad. And that was, I think, one of the biggest realizations for me when I come into the forum. Even just the way they spoke was revolutionary to me. I was like, I cannot believe this. Straight, and the distinctions or the places they were tapping into in my brain where it felt dimensional. It felt like I have never thought that way. And in part of it was because I never really did any work in terms of like reading about how the mind works, or consciousness or self-awareness. So, dude, this is not as impactful for people at this age because I think they've been exposed to a lot of this work. But at the time, I still remember. So you all have a voice in your head. Like, what voice in my head? No, and then he keeps talking about the voice in your head, and I don't know what this guy's talking about. I had already respected him because I think I told you when I first came in, he said a couple things about being a people fixer.
Larry?
I don't remember who my forum leader was, but he's like, I'm like a people fixer. You're like a broken car, you come in, I go like that, and you're fixed. And I was like, what do you think you are? But he had my attention. And so when he starts talking about the voice in your head, I'm like, what voice in your head? But then he just, oh, you don't know what I'm talking about? I'm going to be quiet for 30 seconds, and you're going to know what the voice in your head is. And he's quiet for 30 seconds. And I'm trying to listen to the voice in my head, and I'm like, what's the voice in my head? I don't have a voice in my head. And then the 30 seconds are up. And then he's like, you know that voice that said, what's the voice in my head? I don't have a voice in my head. He's like, that's the voice in your head. And I'm like, whoa. And then he just creates a new dimension, right? Like you're like, oh, there is, you know, the rat and the scientist. I like to think about it. Honestly, there's nothing more freeing than thinking of yourself as a rat and a scientist, in my opinion. And so that was the first thing. So for me, then you go that, and then you go through. I remember the other one that was very impactful for me was the filters, that you listen to people through a filter.
Yeah.
And what this is basically that you have certain judgments about people in terms of like, this person doesn't listen, or this person is always thinking about themselves, or this person thinks I'm an idiot. And then it doesn't matter what you communicate to them or how they communicate with you. Everything is either evidence that they think that basically evidence that they think that you're an idiot, or them just trying to get around it. But like the most important premise is that you're an idiot, and everything revolves around
and you're
that.
the victim, and it's comfortable to be the victim.
Or that they think that you're an asshole and they're the victim. Like whatever the point is that there is something there that when you're really talking to this person, there is really not a conversation happening. And that happened with me, with my mom. I kind of realized there that because of the way that my mom and my dad grew up, I mean, not the way they grew up, but the way the relationship was when I was growing up. My dad was the breadwinner. My mom was always at home, and I felt like there was an imbalance in terms of power. And I think I adopted that as my dad being here and my mom being here. And then my mom, you know, after I'm older, she goes to school, she's running a business, and she's now like doing everything a professional can do. But at this event, I realized that I still had a filter for my mom, which is that she's not, you know, like that intellectual or that capable, intellectually speaking, or work-related stuff. And I'm like, fuck, my mom has graduated with honors, she's running a business. Like, how much more does she have to do for me to give her the respect and that she deserves, and the recognition that she deserves for what she is in life? And I remember calling her. And I actually called her to talk to my sister, who I hadn't spoken to in 3 years.
Yeah, I remember,
Because they, in like 7 minutes, had me talking to my sister, which I had promised I would never talk to again. And I remember calling my mom and being like, Mom, can you put me in touch with my sister? I'm trying to get a hold of her. And I had treated my sister so badly over the last few years. My mom was like, no, I'm not going to put you in touch with your sister. Why do you want to talk to her? Like, what else do you want to tell her? Or how much more damage do you want to do? And that's when it actually clicked for me, my realization about my mom. And it's like, actually, you know what? I need to talk to you first.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling her this and apologizing and recognizing everything that she had accomplished. And my mom breaks down. Because this is not one of those things that's like bad, that you're treating your mom. Like, I loved her, we got along, but there is a subtle conversation.
Yeah, there's a subtle thing.
And you think maybe there is a chance that she's never even noticed it. Not at all. Like, as soon as I touch the subject, my mom breaks down. Like she'd been waiting for recognition by somebody. I still get like emotional about it. She'd been waiting for recognition from somebody in her family for everything she'd accomplished, because people related to her in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's because of what we adopted. And I remember the moment after I finished that, and we're both crying, and she's like, "Here's her sister's number. Like, call her right now. Call her right away." And then I remember having that conversation with my sister. And with my sister, that was a big apology, man. I had to apologize because she, made some decisions earlier, like when she was very young, about who she wanted to be with, and we didn't approve. She was too young, and it hurt my family. And, I remember calling her and being like, I know I've been this kind of brother.
Yeah.
And I apologize, and that was your choice, and you were young, and she was still with that person. She's still with that person. So
okay.
Yeah. So I would have kids with them. It's probably the only couple that stayed together out of the whole family, which is what's crazy about it. And then I remember I'm just expecting. I don't know what to expect, right? Like, what's she gonna come back with? And the sister that makes all the bad decisions and is the idiot comes back with, all I've ever wanted is to get my brother back. So
wow.
I love you. Which is like, let's be an asshole about it, you know what I mean? No, she just, goes fucking zen on me.
That's crazy.
And it was amazing. So for me, a lot of these distinctions were like groundbreaking. They were like, I remember I used to believe in religion and God, and I stopped.
Yeah.
And I was a guy that you couldn't talk to about religion or God, because even though I wasn't really religious, it was the truth. And you were an idiot if you didn't believe it, and I would treat you like you were a nobody. And then all of a sudden it's like, why am I not questioning this? And I start questioning everything. And I think the most important takeaway from that, and this isn't all landmark, but is that it put me on a path to understanding how we work as human beings, understanding my mindset, understanding all the rules that I had around how to live, understanding about identity, just this self-awareness journey.
Yeah. That,
to me, has a lot to do with any success that I've had in my life.
100%.
Anything, including making it, as far as I did in the corporate world, because, being able to separate story from reality, being able to not take things personally,
100%.
being able to understand that people are where they are, and maybe how to communicate with them. And it was, especially the one about not taking things Actually, I wanted to talk to you about this during the podcast, because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot, which is that I was recently talking to somebody and I'm not going to say his name, but I could tell that this person looks up to me. Mm-hmm. And in the conversation, we're talking about maybe offering my services to the company he works at, and he's all over it. He really wanted to bring me in, and he's helping me work with the company for me to offer them my services. And as we're talking, there is a lot of things that could be done at his company better, and he has the skill set to do them better. And he hasn't been able to get the message through. So he's telling me his frustration with this. And in 2 occasions while he's telling the story, he talks about how he feels his Latino background and is part of the reason. It's part of the reason. It's an obstacle, and that people see him that way. And the first time I let it fly, and then the second time I let it fly. And then when he comes back again, I'm like, bro, I know you haven't asked me, but I'm going to give you a piece of advice that was very good for me.
Classic Enrique moment.
But this guy was like, whoa, because I got serious. And then it's like, forget that I'm a Latino shit, and that's why people don't listen to me. It's an excuse. and actually might even be true, but you're better off forgetting about it. If there is one thing that worked for me, is that I never allowed it. It didn't even occur to me, but I've seen it in conversations enough that now I make it part of my delivery package when I'm talking to people like you. But like, that was not the reason. If it's not working, it's because I didn't pitch well. 100%. It's because I didn't do. Because even if there is an element of maybe, we're tribal and I prefer to give it the opportunity to a guy that looks more like me, you can get around that. Yeah. You can overcome that. But you will never if you think that's the obstacle, because how did you change that? 9 times out of 10, if you find what the actual reason is, which is 9 times out of 10, is not the fact that you were Latino, you're going to get better personally, and then you're going to change hearts. And I think that if I had focused on my background as I was moving through the corporate ladder, I will not have made it to what I made it. Because how? You know what I mean? Like, it's something that you cannot change. It's and the big realization is that 9 times out of 10 is not true. It's your story.
100%.
It has nothing to do with why they said no.
I totally agree. Where, like, yes, racism is a thing. It exists. But if you carry yourself through life thinking that things don't go your way because you're Latino, or because you're black, or because you're Chinese, or because you're whatever,
a woman,
and again, their biases exists and racism exists and other things exist, but if you think and you carry yourself like, oh, that's why they didn't hire me, I think you're gonna start to act accordingly, and people can tell that. I in many ways, sometimes I get a congrats on like recently about the starting to teach at the U of T School of Continuing Studies, and I got I wasn't expecting so many congratulations about this, because for me, yeah, it's really cool because I went to U of T and I'm gonna teach and I'm teaching there, but it wasn't that big a deal for me because I know I have the skill set to do it. So it's not like I just won the fucking Oscars or whatever, But I got so many congratulations, and one of the ones that I got was like, it's so good to... I don't remember the exact wording, but it was like, it's amazing that that as a Latino you can do this. And I didn't respond like you, but I was like, why is the Latino a part of it? Like, I'm not saying like you either got it or you don't. And I know where it's coming from, like, it's coming from a place of like, oh, you have to reinvent yourself in here, and English is not your first language, and this is a different country, and there is a lot of... But it's
also coming from a place of those people are not set up to take in people like you, and you were able to get through that barrier.
Yes, exactly the way you were able to get through that barrier. But in my books, I'm of your mindset, 100%. And I'm of your mindset where I don't act all day like I'm accomplishing this in spite of being a Latino. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like it's in fact it's like because I'm like the things that that make me great, it's because I'm a Latino, not in spite of being one. So it's not like I see it as a weakness. I see it as an opportunity in many ways. And so yeah, I agree. I don't think but one time we had a conversation where I think it was very funny because it was true, where you were like, in my comedy I have this opener where like, hi, I'm Stephan Dyer and I'm Costa Rican, or as people call us, Mexican, and a lot of people take offense to being called Mexican, and
I was like, why? It's more offensive to the Mexicans if I take offense of being Mexican, because what's wrong with Mexicans? You want to call me a Mexican? Yeah, I'm a Mexican today.
There's nothing wrong. I was in a fraternity here at the University of Toronto, and as part of my initiation, and in fact, as it wasn't even like ill-intended, but my nickname was Sanchez throughout the whole thing, and to me, it was a non-issue. Like, I didn't even care. I embraced it, But like maybe some people now, especially with people taking offense with everything, they'd be like, that was super racist. How could you stay there? it wasn't, maybe it's like an ignorance is bliss kind of thing, but in the corporate workplace, it's so easy to be the victim, you know? It's like, oh, they didn't like my idea. It must be because I'm a Latino. No, it's because...
Your idea sucks, bro.
Your idea sucks. 9 out of 10, your idea sucks, and maybe one time the person is racist, or less than that. And maybe you shouldn't even be there.
You know what's another layer for this? Which is that I have noticed that there are some shitty dynamics in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And you might be on the wrong side of that. But it typically has nothing to do with your culture and your background. More to do with you're a threat. More to do with this person is just controlling. And it's true that there are some elements that are unfair, maybe. We can talk about fairness and unfairness. you probably know everything I think about that just from that expression. But they have nothing to do with the color of your skin or where you're coming from, but because this is the wild west. Sometimes people are trying to get ahead, and whether you're white, brown, black, or yellow, some people are gonna do shitty moves because they think that's what it takes for them to stay where they are, or to just have influence, or to outshine you. And even focusing on that is better than thinking that it's your background, because at least it's more accurate in terms of like what the actual motivation is, and then you can figure out how to get around it. I don't know if that's clear, but and our mutual friend Dani Silva, back in like 2013-14, one time, I don't know what the situation was, but she was like, hey, it's never personal. And I was like, yeah, I know, but she's like, no, listen, it's never personal. It all mostly always has to do more with them than with you. She's so fucking wise, man.
Yeah. And then I used to go to university with a friend, and the guy, we had some mutual classes, and every time he would get a bad mark, it's because the professor is racist, bro. And I'm like, what? Dude, you should study. Like, nothing can always be because the professor's racist. Like, I don't think they're racist, but even if they're racist, like, you should study and get a better grade. If you studied, you probably get a better grade. But it's so easy to just be it's very comfortable to be the victim of the story. Any other distinctions of landmark that really helped you? I have mine though written on the sheet. So everything arises in language. Life is not a spectator sport, or like you gotta get on the court, like in the arena.
To me, empty and meaningless. Which is giving out the prize at the end, but like I don't know what to call it. But like empty and meaningless has been like life defining for me.
Nothing has meaning.
I'm a big believer that intrinsically life has no meaning, and that has been very useful to me when times are tough, and just basically separating, like, just the basic understanding that like everything that's here I created. Everything, like how I feel about it, there might be some realities, physical realities, but for the most part, any adjectives that I've added and labels that I've added, they all came from me. And even just recently, I can tell you, and I hate talking about this because I hate being a victim. I hate it. I despise it. My mind was going to go into a place that was not going to be good. And it was time for me to go to work on like, this is not going to happen. You know, separate what you're thinking from your reality. Accept what's going on. Take action. Like, I literally had to go to work big time because... you know, I got to a point where I just wasn't sure, like, you know, I was going to see doctors and whatever, and I'm fine, but there was a point that there wasn't clarity, and I just started thinking about my family and what's going to happen, and your mind can spiral. And I had not experienced that, at least for as long as I can remember. I've been very blessed, and you have been too, that I got into this world of, like, mental strength. And I do find that where a lot of people suffer, I just I'm fine. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm able to separate the suffering, and like I'm able to just keep the joy and the life and the passion despite circumstances. But in that, it was like it tested me. And Empty and Meaningless was a big help because I had to stop and sit down and put everything that was going through my mind in a place, in a basket, and then just be like, how much of that is real? And the reality is that nothing is. But but you know, it all came down to, I have some symptoms, I have to go see a doctor, and the doctor is going to tell me what those symptoms are. And I know everyone who's listening is like, oh, obviously that was always the answer. But yeah, motherfuckers, that's not how the mind
No,
works.
when you're
you know what
scared,
I mean?
it's not how the mind works.
You have this symptom, it means this thing, and then what happens to the human being? You start living like that's the truth. And you start making all these stupid decisions because I got this, and you forgot that all you had was a symptom, and your brain told you had that, and now you're just running with it.
And you think you're gonna die.
And you think you're gonna
You
die.
Google it and you think you're gonna die.
Oh yeah, that's the word. I went on Google, which was not a good. I should have gone on ChatGPT or something, but I went on Google, and so it took really stepping back and being like, okay, I gotta figure out how to, you know, how much of this is real, and that's how I was able to like get back in action. And I still deal with it, but you know, like it's just thoughts. Like it's the whole idea of being able to say, oh, there goes that thought, and then what's the reality is huge, right?
I think one of the things that is difficult with regards to health in your case is that, and I don't think you get too much credit for this, like my brother Kurt, like you're very generous, but you don't look generous. Like you're super generous with your family. So is my brother Kurt, but because of the demeanor or the not give a fuckness about it, it doesn't seem like you do. And whether
I've never been told that before, so that's good to know.
and
Explains a few things.
Yeah, and because you help your mom and you've helped your family, you're suddenly in a position like, fuck, what happens if I can't? And to me, I was also helping my family at times when I was at the bank, and one of the biggest shocks was like, fuck, what if I can't now because I'm not making that much money? Partially, it was a relief because now nobody was asking me for money, but it was also like, man, like I wish I could help my family more, which in many ways is also like a drive to get back into making more money and being in a position to help others. But when the health scare comes around,
it's so final. It's not like you can just get back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who said this, but like, the healthy person wants 1,000 things. The sick person only wants one.
Yeah.
And it's very true.
Yeah, I will think like, okay, just give me 5 years. I can make this work in 5 years. That's the kind of mindset that I had. Just 5 years, I'll make it work. And then I was like, dude, what are you doing? Just go get your checked at a doctor.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, your mind can be.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, we've come to the last question that all the podcast guests get, and that is the champagne question. If we were to meet a year from now with a bottle of champagne, 2024, what are we celebrating in Enrique's life?
I've heard this question so many times, so should we prepare for it? But I think a year from now.
Yeah, 2024.
I think that we're celebrating that we're all healthy, because that's one of the concerns, and that selfishly speaking, I'm on a clear path towards prosperity for the company. I don't know exactly what that's gonna look like, but that is clear. Okay, you've taken off.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm not saying that you're doing this or not, but I see a lot of immigrants coming in and they're like, oh, my immediate goal is to get a job. But at the same time, and I get why they're stressed because they just moved to Canada and they have their 6-month-old. And what I told the guy the other day was like, bro, enjoy this. Like, for the first time in your life, you got nothing to do. and you can spend time with your son all day. And possibly the worst thing that can happen to you is that you get a job. I mean, you have to get a job because we have to pay the bills. But don't be that guy who gets the job and now realizes, fuck, I just spent the last year worrying about this job and I didn't even enjoy my baby. Now I'm making money, but I'm not happy because now I don't have time for myself. I can't see my family. And then 2 months in, you're fucking hating this job anyways. So there's stages, and I'm happy to see that you're enjoying this one too. Building your team, learning a lot. I mean, obviously helping us that we're very grateful for. It's not even a doubt in my mind that you're gonna make it again. It's like what a guy told us when Juan and I quit.
It's for me. I relate to it as a matter of time.
Yeah, it's not if, it's just when.
Yeah.
So keep enjoying 1 hour and 10 minutes of filosofando here. Any closing comments?
Nothing. I look forward to continuing the conversation. I hope it doesn't take 80 more episodes before you invite me again. I'm not resentful at all.
No hard feelings.
No hard feelings at all.
No hard feelings. It only took quitting your job, helping our company, and founding Paula. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. Means a lot, even though there's no meaning to anything. Enrique Flores and Stephan Dyer on the Stephan Dyer Podcast. Ciao, ciao.
Gracias por escuchar el Stephan Dyer Podcast. Arrivederci, my people.